Travis Malloy didn't move to Whispering Pines for drama. He bought the 2-acre property on the edge of the community because it bordered open desert, gave his 2 rescue horses plenty of room to roam, and had a view of the sunrise that felt like it belonged in a Western movie. He had spent the last 6 months converting the rundown lot into a livable homestead, new fencing, gravel drive, and a small red barn that he'd built with his own hands. Life had finally slowed down, and for the first time in years, he felt like he could breathe again. Then, on a warm Tuesday morning, he found a plastic sleeve zip-tied to his front gate. It looked official. Too official. The document inside was titled, Violation Notification, Non-Compliant Structure and Unauthorized Livestock. The letterhead read Whispering Pines Property Owners Association. Beneath it were 4 paragraphs of vague citations about unauthorized modifications, unapproved fence height, and improper livestock usage. Travis read it twice. He wasn't part of any HOA. He made sure of that before he even made an offer on the land. He walked back to his porch, poured a cup of coffee, and read it a third time. A phone number was listed at the bottom. He called it. It rang 4 times before a voice answered, tight and formal. Whispering Pines Homeowners Association office. This is Evelyn Crowder. Hi, Evelyn. This is Travis Malloy. I live at 8 East Washburn. I think there's been a mistake. A pause, then. Oh, you're the one with the horses. I am. But I'm also not in your HOA. She exhaled. That's a common misunderstanding. Whispering Pines expanded its jurisdiction. In 1997, you fall within the extended residential zone. You are subject to our regulations. Travis furrowed his brow. My deed doesn't mention that, neither did the realtor. We suggest homeowners read the community plat before moving in, she replied. Regardless, you'll need to submit retroactive approval applications for all current structures. The animals, if they are not registered therapy animals, must be removed. Travis bit back a laugh. Removed? Within 15 days, yes, or you'll be fined. She hung up. Later that afternoon, Evelyn Crowder appeared in person. She drove a black luxury SUV with tinted windows and wore oversized sunglasses, despite the shade. She walked up to Travis's property like she owned it, clipboard in hand. I always prefer to make introductions face to face, she said with a plastic smile. We value community connection. Travis stood at the gate and didn't invite her in. I did some more research, he said. That extension you're referring to, it was disputed. County records still list my parcel as independent. I'm not subject to your HOA. She tilted her head. You may want to double-check that. There are clauses in the community covenants that give us oversight. He narrowed his eyes. I've got my own legal team. I'll be checking everything. But for now, your notice doesn't hold any weight here. Her expression twitched, just slightly. Suit yourself. She turned and walked away, but not before snapping a photo of his barn from the sidewalk as her SUV pulled off. Travis felt the air shift. The quiet peace of his land now felt watched, but Evelyn had no idea who she was dealing with. Travis Malloy wasn't just a quiet guy with horses and a love for solitude. He was the majority stakeholder in a real estate holding company that had quietly acquired dozens of properties in this exact subdivision during the last housing slump under a different name, a name Evelyn hadn't yet connected to him. And what she didn't know, he already owned more of Whispering Pines than the HOA board itself. Have you ever had an HOA try to claim power where they had none? Drop your experience in the comments, and stay tuned for part 2, where Evelyn turns up the heat, not knowing she's walking straight into her own trap. 3 days after the red tag notice appeared, the letters began arriving like clockwork every morning, just past 9 a.m., like they were being hand-delivered by a ghost. First came a noise ordinance violation. Evelyn claimed Travis's horses neighed too loudly. Then a gate access penalty. His sliding ranch gate wasn't the approved neutral tone. The next morning, a community eyesore citation for his tractor. Each one was more absurd than the last. Travis didn't flinch. He wasn't just used to bureaucratic games, he had played on the other side. Before retiring early, Travis had spent over a decade flipping distressed properties across Arizona, navigating zoning boards, community politics, and yes-hos. He knew their playbook, and Evelyn. She was reading straight from the intimidation by paperwork chapter, so he made a call. His attorney, Silas Mercer, was a quiet but dangerous man with gray eyebrows like eagle wings and a brain wired for legal warfare. Within 24 hours, Silas emailed him everything: county plats, community maps, zoning history, and something Travis didn't expect. Check this, Silas wrote. The HOA's 1997 jurisdiction expansion. It was never finalized. The county flagged it for conflicting boundaries. No recorded enforcement authority over your parcel. But here's the kicker. The HOA has been issuing citations outside its legal reach for years. Might want to keep that quiet for now. Travis grinned. He walked out to his barn, scratched his mare, Dolly behind the ear, and looked across the cul-de-sac. Evelyn's home stood tall with a manicured lawn and a decorative fountain shaped like a pelican in prayer. A woman obsessed with rules but ignorant of her own foundation's cracks. That same evening, Evelyn returned. This time, she brought two men with her, both wearing matching polo shirts with the HOA logo stitched over the left pocket. They stood at the edge of Travis's gravel path like mall cops on assignment. Travis came out before they could speak. We've had more complaints, Evelyn said flatly. About livestock waste. The smell. The barn's cleaned daily, Travis said, arms crossed. And the manure's composted by code. You know that. She smiled. We're not trying to be hostile. But if you won't cooperate, the board has voted to fine you $200 per day until full compliance is achieved. Travis stared at her. You keep saying the board. You sure you know who's on the board these days? That threw her. She narrowed her eyes but said nothing, motioning to the clipboard guy to snap another photo. As they left, Travis watched. Her SUV disappeared down the hill. He pulled out his phone and opened a folder labeled Gray Canyon Holdings. There they were, 43 undeveloped lots inside. Whispering Pines. Most residents didn't even know who owned them. They were all held under Gray Canyon, which meant he technically owned the voting rights attached to them. HOA boards operated by vote. 1 vote per property owner. And in this case, Travis had 43. All legal, all quiet. All ready. The next board meeting was 2 weeks away. Evelyn had no idea that every letter she sent, every threat she made, was digging her deeper into a fight she'd already lost. Ever dreamed of flipping the power back on the HOA that tried to crush you? Hit that like button, because in part 3, the Karen Brigade makes things personal and Travis starts flipping the neighborhood from the inside. By the following Monday, Travis realized Evelyn wasn't working alone. 3 new faces began circling his property, 2 women and a man. All in their 50s, all dressed like they were headed to a golf course-themed war. Matching clipboards, camera, phones at the ready, and attitudes sharp enough to slice through drywall. They didn't speak when Travis waved. They just stared, scribbled notes, and took photos of his mailbox, his barn, even the tire tracks in his gravel driveway. The neighbors had a nickname for them, the Karen Brigade. Their official titles, community compliance officers, handpicked by Evelyn and appointed without a public vote. Their job, document everything about Travis that could be spun into a violation. Trash bins visible before 8 a.m. Click. Barn door open too long. Click. Saddle hung on the porch railing. Illegal decorative equipment. By Wednesday, Travis had received 6 more letters. One of them, absurdly, accused him of excessive dust displacement from vehicle movement on unpaved surfaces. He laughed out loud when he read it. Still, it was time to make a move. That evening, he logged into the HOA members portal not as Travis Malloy, the horse guy on Washburn, but as the registered representative of Gray Canyon Holdings LLC, all above board, every login credential verified, every vote legally backed by a property. He didn't speak in the forums. He didn't stir the pot. He just watched. That Friday, a special emergency compliance meeting was posted. Evelyn would be hosting it in her backyard, members only, no outside guests. Travis clicked attending. He showed up in a crisp polo and jeans, clean boots, and an iced coffee in hand. Nobody recognized him. The chairs were arranged in rows. The Karens were stationed like sentries, arms crossed. Evelyn stood at the front with a microphone clipped to her collar and a projector screen behind. Her slideshow was titled, Preserving the Whispering Pines Standard. It was 42 slides long. Travis counted. Each slide included before and after pictures of various neighborhood infractions, bad paint jobs, weird holiday decor, and, of course, Travis's barn, horses, fencing, and truck. Slide 27 was titled, Non-Compliant Ranch Aesthetic. When the slideshow ended, Evelyn took a breath and said, The HOA is not a democracy without order. We set a standard here. If someone wants to play cowboy, they should move out to the hills. A few polite chuckles followed. That's when Travis raised his hand. Evelyn squinted. Sorry, are you? Travis Malloy, he said casually. I represent Gray Canyon Holdings. Whispers broke out immediately. Evelyn's face paled. He stood up slowly and walked toward the front. I own 43 lots in this neighborhood, unbuilt parcels, which means I carry 43 votes. She blinked. That can't be correct. It is, he said, pulling out a neatly organized folder and handing it to one of the Karen Brigade. All of them legally recorded under Gray Canyon Holdings, and the documentation is available through county records. He paused, glancing around the group. So, if there's going to be a vote about how we treat property owners, or whether this HOA is still representative of its actual stakeholders, I think it's time to count votes that actually matter. Dead silence. Evelyn tried to recover. We're not voting on anything today. This is a compliance discussion, Travis cut in, smiling. Then I guess I'll just listen. For now. He sat back down. The meeting ended early. The whispers didn't stop. Did Travis just pull off the coldest power move in HOA history? Hit that like button and stay tuned, because in part 4, he's about to call the bluff that Evelyn has been hiding behind for years. Word spread like wildfire by Monday morning. Travis's phone buzzed non-stop with emails from residents, some supportive, some cautious, and a few downright desperate. Turns out, Evelyn's reign had been wearing thin. For years, petty fines, late-night code violations, HOA dues hikes without explanation. Now, for the first time, they sensed the tide might be turning. Travis didn't make any bold announcements. He just made a move. Using Gray Canyon Holdings authority, he formally filed a request for a full proxy vote clause buried deep in the HOA bylaws that allowed any majority landowner to demand a vote on board leadership and operational policy, especially when more than 25% of the community was affected by REPEATED, non-compliance or abusive process. The clause had never been used before. Evelyn's reaction came swiftly. That night, she appeared at Travis's property, again alone. This time, he met her at the gate, arms folded, a calm expression on his face. Mr. Malloy, she began, her voice tighter than a violin string. This stunt you're pulling with these proxy claims is reckless. It's not a stunt, he said evenly. It's legal. You've been operating outside your jurisdiction for years. I'm just correcting the course. She huffed. You're destabilizing the community. I think you already did that. When you fined a Vietnam vet for putting up an American flag, that shut her up. After a long pause, Evelyn tried to shift tactics. Why are you really doing this? Travis leaned on the gate. Because power without accountability rots. And this place, it's been rotting for too long. The next HOA meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening. Travis arrived early. Evelyn and her board were already seated, dressed like they were holding court. The room was packed, more residents than usual. People brought lawn chairs, snacks, even a few kids playing quietly in the back. Evelyn opened the meeting with her usual stiff tone. As per our schedule, this meeting will review compliance concerns and point of order, Travis said, standing from his seat in the second row. I've submitted a proxy vote request. It's been reviewed by council. I'd like the board to address it before any other business. Murmurs filled the room. Evelyn's jaw clenched. We don't recognize that request. Travis pulled out a certified envelope. This is a notarized summary of Gray Canyon Holdings property list. 43 lots. 43 votes. Your own bylaws require recognition of any majority proxy. One of the newer board members leaned toward Evelyn and whispered something. She paled. This is unprecedented, she muttered. But not illegal, Travis said. Let's proceed. A community vote was called. For the first time in years, every resident present had a say. Travis, with his proxy block, made up the clear majority. The results, unanimous. The entire board, including Evelyn, was formally removed. Gasps echoed across the room. A few people clapped. One woman actually wiped her eyes. Evelyn stood frozen, clutching her binder like a lifeline. You can't just you think this is over. Travis gave her a look of calm finality. No, I think it's just beginning. He opened the floor for nominations for a new board. Instead of stacking it with allies, he encouraged nominations from longtime residents, people who had quietly suffered under Evelyn's control. There was Marcy, a retired schoolteacher who'd been fined for hanging a wind chime, Roger, the disabled veteran fined for his flag, and Mrs. Talbot, who had nearly sold her home because Evelyn harassed her about her flower beds. Every single nominee was approved. That night, Travis walked back to his barn under the stars, letting the silence of his land wrap around him. The balance had shifted, but Evelyn wasn't done yet. Did Evelyn just lose everything? Or is she about to strike back from the shadows? Hit like, subscribe, and get ready. Because in part 5, she brings out the dirtiest lawyer in town and things get ugly. For 72 hours, it was quiet, too quiet. The HOA board was officially restructured. The new members held their first open meeting on Travis's front lawn, something unheard of under Evelyn's rule. Neighbors brought cookies. Kids played freely. The energy was hopeful. But Travis had seen this pattern before. In real estate, silence wasn't peace. It was pressure building before a lawsuit dropped like a hammer. On Monday morning, it did. A courier in a blazer pulled into Travis's driveway and handed him a thick envelope. Cease and desist. Unlawful usurpation of authority. It was signed by Mitchell R. Deming, ESQ, a name that immediately rang a bell. Travis didn't even need to open the envelope to know what was coming. Mitch Deming was a local lawyer infamous for ambulance chasing, HOA overreach, and getting thrown out of 3 separate county meetings for yelling at zoning officers. His reputation was a blend of legal technicality and personal theatrics. A man who drove a cherry red Corvette and wore Bluetooth earpieces like they were fashion accessories. Evelyn had called in her loudest weapon. Later that day, Travis spotted her smugly watering her front garden draped in tennis whites, like she'd just won a tournament no one else knew about. She waved at him, casually. Travis didn't wave back. Instead, he forwarded the letter to Silas Mercer, his attorney. Silas called back that evening, chuckling. This guy's good at bluffing. Bad at reading state law. The bylaws and ownership records are solid, but this tells us Evelyn's not done. She's pushing for retraction, possibly aiming for litigation. I figured, Travis said. What's the play? You let her bring the fire, Silas said calmly. And when she does, you bury her in her own paperwork. The next HOA meeting was scheduled for Thursday night, and the turnout tripled. Rumors had begun flying that Evelyn was planning a takeover. That the vote was illegitimate. That Travis had cheated the system. Travis didn't bother defending himself in the gossip chain. He waited until he was holding proof. And on Wednesday afternoon, he got it. Silas delivered a quiet bombshell: an audit of past HOA finances, pulled through public records, and an open records request to the bank Whispering Pines used for its association fund. Tucked in the middle of the spreadsheet was a line item: personal garden beautification, $3,428.16, approved by board majority. The payment went directly to a boutique landscaping company owned by Evelyn's cousin. The project, Evelyn's custom koi pond and pergola. Thursday night arrived. Residents packed into the clubhouse, murmuring nervously. Evelyn and Mitch were already seated, dressed like they'd arrived from a press conference. Mitch wore sunglasses indoors. Evelyn took the mic. Fellow residents, she began. We have serious concerns about the direction of our HOA. Due process was violated. The recent vote, in our view, is void. Our legal counsel will elaborate. Mitch stood and launched into a dramatic monologue about improper board transitions, dangerous precedents, and the fabrication of majority rights. People listened. Some frowned. A few even looked uncertain. Until Travis stood, he walked slowly to the front and dropped a folder on the table. I've got something for the board and the community. It's a breakdown of HOA expenses from the last 3 years. Evelyn shifted. Her eyes narrowed. This line here, he said, pointing. Documents over $3,000 of HOA money spent on a private project on Evelyn's own property. Gasps. Travis continued. Unauthorized by vote. Paid to a business she's personally connected to. That's misappropriation, Mitch interjected. That's an outrageous. Travis cut him off. Already submitted to the county attorney. The room went dead quiet. Evelyn stood frozen, lips parted, like she wanted to speak but couldn't find the script. Travis gave a small nod. You wanted a war. Now you've got one. Just when Evelyn thought she could spin the story, Travis flipped the entire table. Hit like if you're rooting for accountability, and get ready, because in part 6, Travis doesn't just win, he rebuilds the neighborhood. The fallout was instant. By Friday morning, Evelyn's koi pond looked more like a crime scene. Not because of tape or flashing lights, but because the neighborhood had finally seen the receipts. Over $3,000 in HOA funds, funneled straight into her backyard paradise, disguised as community landscaping. It spread like wildfire. Doorbell cameras caught neighbors reading the flyers Travis's new board quietly delivered overnight. The expense report in plain, bold words. Your dues paid for her private pond. Travis didn't need to gloat. The numbers spoke for themselves. That afternoon, the Whispering Pines bank account was frozen pending audit. The county clerk sent a notice requesting Evelyn's cooperation with the investigation. The pergola, flagged for code violations. The landscaping company, already under review for fraudulent billing. But what hit harder than anything else was the silence from Evelyn. No more patrols. No more clipped, passive-aggressive emails. No karandrigagi, they had all gone quiet. Saturday morning, Travis held the first true open forum in HOA history on the very green Evelyn once claimed was reserved for quiet viewing only. He stood under a small pop-up tent with a microphone in hand and 3 folding tables behind him. At those tables, Marcy, Roger, and Mrs. Talbot, the new board, the people who'd been fined, bullied, and cornered by Evelyn's rule for years. Residents showed up in droves. They brought lawn chairs, coffee, thermoses, and pastries. There were no threats, no fines, just voices being heard for the first time in over a decade. Marcy took notes, Roger promised the removal of the ridiculous flag height restriction, and Mrs. Talbot, bless her 74-year-old heart, stood up and read a resolution aloud, declaring that any future board decisions must be made with 72 hours notice, community access to meeting notes, and public votes for all major changes. The crowd applauded. Then someone asked Travis, "So, what now?" He paused, glancing around. "I didn't do all this to run the place," he said. "I did it so the right people could." He pointed to the new board. "This is your neighborhood. You deserve leaders who actually live here, who listen, and who don't weaponize bylaws to control people. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm stepping back." Cheers erupted, but he wasn't done yet. After the meeting, he walked over to a quiet corner of the lawn where the McHenrys sat in their mobility scooters. They were in their 80s and had lived in Whispering Pines longer than anyone. "Do you remember 3 years ago?" Travis asked them, "when Evelyn fined you for building a wheelchair ramp?" Mrs. McHenry chuckled. She called it, architecturally, offensive. "Well," Travis said, reaching into his jacket and pulling out an envelope, "I already filed the work permit, and the new board voted to cover it with discretionary funds." She opened it slowly. Inside was the approval notice, stamped and signed. Tears welled in her eyes. "You don't know what this means to us," she whispered. Travis smiled. "Yeah, I do." Later that night, he sat on his porch, boots kicked up, coffee in hand, as Dolly the mare nuzzled at the fence line. The stars above were sharp and clear. The air finally still. For the first time in a long while, it felt like his land again. Not a battleground. Not a zone of petty rules. Home. He heard the crunch of gravel and looked up. Roger stood near the gate. "You should know Evelyn's house is up for sale." Travis raised an eyebrow. "That fast?" "She posted the listing an hour ago." "Motivated seller," Roger said with a grin. Travis nodded once. Good, but deep down, something told him this wasn't quite the end. The HOA is finally in good hands, but Evelyn's not gone yet. Click like, hit subscribe, and get ready, because in part 7, she makes one last desperate move from the shadows. Whispering Pines had been quiet for 3 blessed weeks. The new board got to work fast, rolling back excessive restrictions, canceling unfair fines, and launching a new resident website where neighbors could suggest changes. The community felt reborn. But just as people started to relax, a letter showed up at Travis's gate. It wasn't from Evelyn. It wasn't even from the HOA. It was from the county zoning department. The letter read, "This property has been reported for exceeding allowable livestock density and violating county agricultural zoning code. Section 12.17.1. You are hereby summoned to appear before the zoning board for review." Travis stood on his porch, letter in hand, staring at the dusty path leading to his barn. His horses, clean, registered, and legally permitted. He'd filed every piece of paperwork. There was no way this was real. He made a call. The zoning board confirmed it. An anonymous complaint had been submitted, claiming Travis was running a commercial livestock operation without a business license. The kicker, the complainant had included photo evidence. Grainy zoomed-in pictures of his barn, his horses, his hay delivery truck. He knew that angle, that bush, that sidewalk. Evelyn, she may have lost the board, lost her influence, and listed her home. But she hadn't left yet. She was playing her final hand, using the county against him. Travis didn't panic. Instead, he prepared. When the hearing date came, Travis showed up early. The room smelled like old carpet and burnt coffee. A few people in suits flipped through paperwork at the front table. Across from them sat a folding chair reserved for the accused. He sat down, calm but alert. 10 minutes in. The door opened, Evelyn stepped in, dressed in beige and fake humility. She walked to the board and introduced herself as a concerned citizen. "I just wanted to bring attention to what I believe is a misuse of residential land," she said softly, like she was giving a church testimonial. "Multiple horses, a rotating supply truck, loud equipment. It's not fair to the rest of the community." Travis didn't even look at her. When it was his turn to speak, he pulled out a binder. "Everything you just heard is wrong," he said flatly. "This property is zoned rural residential. My horses are registered, and I'm, well, under the animal density limit. I don't sell livestock. I don't operate a business, and every delivery is feed for personal use." He handed the board a full document packet: permits, registration, video footage of his quiet ranch life. And then came the final nail. He handed them a photo, a clear shot from his own security camera, showing Evelyn standing behind a bush near the fence, snapping photos with her phone. She didn't see that coming. One of the board members frowned. "Ms. Crowder, were you trespassing to collect this evidence?" Evelyn blinked. I was on the sidewalk." Travis leaned forward. "That photo was taken 5 feet into my property. Her shoes left imprints. I have the timestamp and GPS data if you need it." Silence. The board took 15 minutes to deliberate. Their decision: case dismissed. No violations. No fines, but that wasn't all. Because of Evelyn's repeated pattern of harassment, the zoning board officially referred her to the county mediation and nuisance abuse division. She went pale. Travis didn't speak to her as she left. He just watched as she walked quickly down the hall, head lowered, arms tight around her purse like she was holding on to the last thread of her old power. Later that night, Travis sat in his barn beside Dolly. He didn't feel victorious. He felt tired. He never wanted a fight. All he wanted was land, peace, and horses. But bullies don't go away quietly. Not without being reminded why they lost. Evelyn's final ambush failed, but Travis's truth hasn't been fully revealed yet. Click like, hit subscribe, and don't miss part 8, where a secret from the past brings the story full circle with a twist that no one saw coming. The drama had ended. Evelyn's house sold within days of the zoning board hearing. No farewell, no apology, no word. Just a moving truck, some awkward waves from nosy neighbors, and a final cold silence as she drove away from Whispering Pines forever. But for Travis Malloy, it wasn't over. Not really, because while the HOA saga had finally settled, a deeper truth remained, one he hadn't told anyone. Not Roger, not Marcy, not even the Mick, Henrys. It started 22 years earlier, with a name no one in the neighborhood remembered anymore. Franklin T. Malloy. Franklin had once owned nearly all the land Whispering Pines now sat on. A rancher, builder, and father. A man who dreamed of open pastures and family roots. But when the housing boom came in the early 2000s, a slick developer pitched Franklin on a community project. "You'll make more from these homes than from 100 harvests," they told him. Against his instincts, Franklin sold on one condition. The remaining 2 acres, the parcel now owned by Travis, would stay untouched. A family legacy. But shortly after the homes were built, the developer went bankrupt. The newly formed HOA, desperate for control, used a legal loophole to claim the last parcel. They pressured the county to rezone it, declared it under purview, and slapped Franklin with violations. He fought, he failed. By the time the dust settled, Franklin had lost everything. He died in a rented apartment 6 miles away, watching the land he once loved get fenced, paved, and carved up. Travis had only been 12, and he never forgot. Years later, after college, after working in commercial real estate, after building up enough capital to quietly start his own investment firm, Travis came back. He did it quietly, an LLC here, a trust there. Nothing flashy. He bought up every unsold lot in Whispering Pines. He never stepped foot on the land. Until the final piece, Franklin's lost parcel, came up for sale again. After the last heir to the development company defaulted on their taxes. Travis bought it within the hour. And when he moved in, He didn't tell anyone who he was. He didn't move back to cause chaos. He moved back to restore what was stolen now. As he stood beside a freshly planted tree on the south edge of his land, overlooking the whole neighborhood, he finally pulled the old photo from his wallet. It was worn. Edges curled, colors faded but still clear. Franklin Malloy in a cowboy hat, holding toddler Travis on his shoulders. Both smiling in front of the old barn. Roger joined him at the fence line. "Didn't know you planted trees?" Roger said casually. Travis gave a half smile. "Only this one. Figured it should face the sunrise." Roger glanced down. "That plaque, what does it say?" Travis stepped aside so he could read it. "In memory of Franklin T. Malloy. He built it before it was bought. And now it's back, where it belongs." Roger blinked. "Your dad. Grandfather," Travis said. "He never got to come home." Roger put a hand on his shoulder. Well, he did now. They stood there in silence as the sun lit the rooftops of Whispering Pines homes no longer ruled by fear, fines, or fake authority. Just families. Free again. Later that evening, Travis posted on the new community forum, "The HOA is no longer the problem, but remember it never should have been. A neighborhood should be a place to grow roots, not fight fences. Let's keep it that way." He hit send. And finally, closed the laptop. If this ending hit you in the heart, share this story. Drop a welcome home, Franklin, in the comments. And remember, sometimes, the best revenge is rebuilding what they tried to erase.